I hope that's okay with everyone. And because we created some slides, we're going to put a slide or two up. All right. So let's see, we're probably going to cover this a little bit again in just a second, but I wanted to say, so my name, first of all, is I'm Eric Renwick. I'm an economic development specialist with the City of Santa Fe's Office of Economic Development. And this is a new program we're launching, a new monthly video interview series where we talk with the people and organizations that are really providing important resources for local businesses and the entrepreneurs in our communities. What I will mention up front is, in the spirit of entrepreneurship, we expect that the format for these is going to change a little bit over time and ideally adapt to the needs of our community. And, you know, for our first session, actually, I'll wait on that for a second. Just make sure we've got all the people in the room that we're going to get for right this second. I also want to mention I'll be joined by one of my colleagues here at the City of Santa Fe's Office of Economic Development, Casey Dalbor, who's our business growth manager. He's part of another meeting that's just wrapping up, so he'll be joining us shortly if he's not already in the room. Let's see. All right, I see people are introducing themselves. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, if you throw in an email, that's good. If you're joining us from outside of the Santa Fe area, that's great to include that information as well. So we're doing a lot of stuff on chat today. Let's see. Looks like our participant level is in pretty good shape. Let's see. All right. With these online kinds of events, oftentimes I'll just start at 12:05, give folks a few minutes to get into the room. Let's see. And so that gives us another like 60 seconds. But I hope some people are enjoying lunch. One of the things we're trying to figure out is what's a good time to do this. We found out a little late in the game that Tuesdays may not be the best days for us as there's sort of a persistent conflict. So we're trying to tweak the both the timing and the date of this so that it's something that works for as many people as possible. But in addition to the show itself and, you know, seeing and participating live, the video will be available through YouTube and through the Facebook channel that we've got for the Office of Economic Development here. All right. All right, well, so I will just jump in and kick things off. So for our first session, we wanted to provide some information and background about both a new opportunity, but also highlight a sector that's of increasing importance to New Mexico and the city of Santa Fe as well. We've been seeing and hearing, and I think all of those of us who love it here in New Mexico, one of the reasons certainly is our outdoor environment and the opportunity to participate in a variety of sports, but just even enjoy the great outdoors. So it's been really, I think, exciting and not necessarily a no-brainer, but it's been really cool to see how the state, New Mexico's Economic Development Department has embraced outdoor recreation as a key feature, as a key priority, and how they're looking at economic development for the state as a whole. And I think we're seeing the benefits of that already throughout New Mexico. So as part of that, one of the folks we really wanted to hear from is Alyssa Renwick, who's the acting director at the New Mexico Economic Development Department's Outdoor Recreation Division. So let's see, I'm going to welcome you up on stage. Let me get rid of our little share here. And I will highlight your video so that folks can see who you are. So if you don't mind, I'm just kind of leading into this. I'm curious if you could tell us maybe a little bit about yourself and the division at State Economic Development.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate it. Like Eric said, my name's Alyssa Renwick. I'm the Deputy Director, but current Acting Director of the New Mexico Outdoor Recreation Division. I see a lot of familiar names on here, so I got a feeling a lot of you know our background, but for those of you that may not, we're a pretty new division. We were just created in 2019 through the state legislature, signed into law by the governor. And outdoor recreation was is one of the governor's key target sectors she's identified to help the state diversify our state economy. So with that, that's kind of why we are one, housed in the economic development department. I know some people are often confused by that. And two, kind of also lends into like big picture goal and mission for us is simply to help grow and expand the outdoor recreation economy in the state. I think you're muted, Eric.
Sometimes when I touch my headset, I just lose it. Let's see. So I'm curious how your role there. Well, you could choose to answer which of these you prefer. I'm curious about two things. One is, how did you come into this role? Is this a topic that you've always been interested in, or is it, something that's evolved? And what is it that's, your, maybe core responsibilities? I know you're wearing a couple hats there right now, so I'm curious how that all breaks out as well.
Yeah, I can start with the first part. I mean, I have just personally always been interested in obviously outdoor rec. I grew up in the Southeast, so I actually grew up more on the water. It's a big change coming to New Mexico for me. But I've fallen in love with New Mexico since then and have no plans to leave. But I actually came to this role from the Department of Health. I was, come at it from a public health background, have a master's degree in public health with a focus in kind of population-based physical activity, active transportation, outdoor rec. I see one of my former colleagues, Leah Ingve, on here, who's now is in a similar space, and we used to work together at the Department of Health as well. But I think that's also, we're currently a team of 3 at ORD, and I think that's the beauty of outdoor rec is there's a place for you, regardless of your background. If you're coming from education or public health or workforce development or economic development, there's a place. And I think that's something we always like to highlight is the breadth of the outdoor rec industry. We do some work in the kind of workforce development space. And so we have our marketing coordinator actually comes from like a wildland firefighting background. Water resources planning background. Our outdoor rec planner comes from a workforce development background. So I think for all of you out there, if you're looking for a career change, we'll take you in outdoor rec regardless of where you're at. And then I think in terms of my specific role, it's definitely kind of a catch-all position. I think especially that goes for all of us. There's only 3 of us, so we all do a little bit of everything. One of my primary roles is overseeing the Outdoor Equity Fund, which I know we're going to get into a little bit. And then also, kind of primary contact on the economic development, business development side of things. Again, we're working on some higher ed, career development, workforce development pieces, and working on getting youth interested in careers in the outdoors and internships and all the way up to the higher ed piece. So kind of primary on that. But I think as a, like you said, wearing a few hats, so then I think we all do. So we've all got our hand in a little bit of everything here at ORD.
Well, that's great. I think one of the things that, in economic development, which is sometimes tough for folks to understand what that actually is. But one of the things that I see both here in our office and really, in most of the places that are doing a good job of it is how interconnected it is with topics like health and some of the other infrastructure and environmental kinds of questions. So I didn't know you came from a health background, but it makes a ton of sense. A lot of navigation programs, a lot of that was built on how folks do, outreach in the kind of the health arena. But you mentioned one of the big things that we wanted to hear about, because I think it was just released recently, the updated Outdoor Equity Fund opportunity for 2023. So I was wondering if you could go into what that is, because I think it's different than what I think a lot of folks might expect. So I'm curious, like in a way, how it came about, but also maybe what you're also already have been seeing with that program.
Yeah, definitely. Always happy to talk about Outdoor Equity Fund. That's our, we like to call that our baby. That's our pride and joy is the Outdoor Equity Fund here. So it was created in 2019 alongside the creation of the division. So it was created at the same time. And it actually was first of its kind in the nation, grant program, something we definitely like to promote and let people know. First of its kind in terms of being created through the state legislature and being state funded. California and Colorado have recently followed suit and created their own. So we like to say that we think it's probably the first time we were ahead of both of those states in something. It's at its core, it's a grant program aimed at getting youth outdoors. So it is primarily aimed at low-income youth under the age of 18, and then just youth that have primarily not had the same access to the outdoors. And it will fund everything from, say, transportation. We fund a lot of schools or programs that are working with schools, so it can fund the buses through the schools to transport kids on field trips or after school, whatever it may be. It can fund food for those outings. It can buy gear. If you're looking to get a bike program off the ground, it can help to purchase those bikes, hiking boots, backpacks, whatever it may be. It can also help provide some stipends for staff time. So a lot of programs operate on volunteers, but it can also help fund some staff time as well. Kind of anything that may be a barrier to getting a program off the ground. For the most part, this will help fund. And it did just open, like you mentioned, mid-May. And this year, we did make some changes to it, so it will be open on a rolling basis. We've got, thanks, in large part due to the support we're seeing from the state, we do have a large amount of funding for it, which we're excited about. And that means we're going to just kind of extend the grant period, accept those on a rolling basis. And then we made a few significant changes to it this year. So I would encourage, I know, like I said, I see a lot of familiar names. So whether you're familiar with the Outdoor Equity Fund applied in the past, or if you're first time you're hearing about it, I definitely encourage you to go online and check out the new program guide, because there are some changes. We've increased the award amounts, the maximum award amounts. So we've also made some changes to the match program. So there's some match waivers this year. If you're a rural community, a tribal community, or a BIPOC-led organization serving BIPOC youth, you actually can qualify for a match waiver. So I made some changes to try to make that more accessible and equitable. So yeah, it's been highly successful, I like to think, so far in just the few short years. We funded around 130 organizations in the last 3 years, which have gotten almost 40,000 youth outdoors.
Wow.
Up to this point. And that's everything from hiking, camping, biking, rock climbing. We do also support, I think one thing a lot of people don't know, we do support agriculture and gardening with this. So we have funded some programs that are getting our youth outdoors, onto farms, into community gardens. That is something that, yeah, we will help support with this as well.
Wow. And I had known that last piece about the farms. I mean, it all sounds really good. And yeah, just so important that there's more equitable access, or that we're making access to these great resources, this great opportunity we have living in here in New Mexico. I'm going to be bringing in some questions in a second. So make sure if you've got a question, go ahead and ask it in the chat. I think the last question I've got for right this second is maybe, I know it's tough sometimes to pick between, good examples. But I'm wondering is there one or two examples of a program that's been launched, that's been funded, that you're particularly impressed with, or that's just catching your imagination at the moment?
Yeah, there's so many good ones that it is hard to identify just one or two.
The second one on your list.
But yeah, I think like we've definitely had a few programs that have applied and received funding like year after year. We're only granted, we're only in the third year of this. But like, for example, Zuni Youth Enrichment Project, we like to consider them one of our kind of OG OEF awardees. They've received funding every year, and are running great programming out there to get their, Indigenous youth reconnected to the land, learning a lot of the history of their pueblo and through outdoor recreation, which I think is key. And it's a good example too of one that, again, they've applied and received funding year after year. And so we love to see them building on their programming. They introduced this past year a biking piece. So they were able to purchase some bikes for their Zuni youth there and incorporate that. And then there's another one that we've also, one of our kind of, I say, original, it's the Samia project out of Albuquerque. They do a really great job of getting BIPOC youth introduced not only to the outdoors, but they're also working to get them introduced and excited about careers in the outdoors. They work to try to train them as guides. Then they can come back to the program and then be the ones that are leading and guiding the programs. They're highly engaged as well. And some of the policy side, getting their youth involved in, like they were there advocating for conservation funding this past legislative session. So I think they're just a good example of a well-rounded program that's not like getting the youth outdoors, but in getting them engaged in a variety of ways.
Oh, that's great. Let's see, we've got a question from Juan Torres, who's at Santa Fe County Economic Development, and he's asking, what role is the Outdoor Recreation Division? What role are you taking, if any, in the Rio Grande Trail project?
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually just coming off a meeting this morning with our partners at NMEDD about the Rio Grande Trail project. So yeah, we are highly involved in that and working closely with NMEDD on that. We have a contract right now with one of our good partners who I think is actually on here. I saw Katrina with Planned Collaborative, formerly MRWM Landscape Architects out of Albuquerque. We have a contract with them currently to work with communities, tribes, pueblos in identifying segments of the Rio Grande Trail work. So I would say the breakdown is kind of NMEDD is taking on the commission, the Rio Grande Trail Commission, overseeing it. And then we are working really more in the weeds through Planned Collaborative with communities to really identify trail segments and working through, the alignment has got a little funky. There's pieces that are way away from the river, which is totally fine and understandable. But yeah, we are, long-winded answer to make it short, that we are highly involved in the Rio Grande Trail. And there was a piece of failed legislature this past session to actually transfer that work to us from NMEDD. There's a chance that's going to come back up again. So I think, there's a good chance this work is ultimately gonna fall on us. But we continue to work closely with NMEDD in the meantime. And are working, closely with communities, Socorro in particular, that are along the trail and identifying and planning those segments, and then eventually getting them off the ground and constructed.
Nice. Let's see, we have a couple more questions in here. What is the best resource to learn about credit and non-credit programs or certifications that would support employment in outdoor recreation?
That's a great question, and I can't say that I am the best expert on that. There's probably a lot of people I'm seeing in this room.
I think I see a few folks who may have an angle on that question. I'm not sure if you can throw something in chat to help out, but that would be good.
Yeah, definitely happy to connect you with the right people and to answer that question. But just off the top of my head, I don't think I have an answer for you.
Okay. And let's see, is there a sense of which portions, are still in need of funding? I think that's portions related to the Rio Grande Trail. Yeah,
so I would say almost all of the portions still need funding. The way the Rio Grande Trail was laid out in the statute is that a piece has to be kind of identified and then go through the commission to be officially, designated as a portion of the Rio Grand Trail. And then once that happens, then it can, basically it's official, then everything is good once it's identified through or designated through the commission. And then I think for the most part, then that's when the construction happens. There's some existing pieces already of trails that will be a part of the Rio Grande Trail, but haven't officially been designated.
Gotcha.
I will say that just to mention anyway, is we do have our Outdoor Recreation Trails Plus grant, which funds outdoor recreation infrastructure projects. And we do anticipate a lot of communities applying for that funding for portions of the Rio Grande Trail. We're working closely with some, and that is an option for them to utilize that funding in that way.
And I'll throw some of the links both to the division and to the grants programs in the chat as well. Let's see, we've got a question about partnerships or partnering with, let's see, New Mexico's land grant communities and any of the acequia irrigation kind of communities. Have they been involved much in the conversations around outdoor recreation yet?
Sorry, I missed that one.
So like the land grant communities, I forget, I don't have a full picture in my head about the governance in those, but also there's some of those acequia based or those kinds of organizations that are running acequias and various irrigation programs.
Yeah, so we definitely been engaged with both of those entities. Particularly land grants are eligible for all our grant programs. We've definitely funded a few land grants through both our Outdoor Equity Fund and our Trails Plus grant. Great. And then we are the acequia communities associations. Again, those alone are also, as a standalone entity, eligible for our grants. Again, we funded them through Outdoor Equity Fund. In particular, we had one, it was a great program there teaching youth how to carry on the acequia traditions. Actually get them out, helping, to clean the ditches, to learn. And, one of the big things with the Outdoor Equity Fund is it is aimed at creating the next generation of land and water stewards. I think that's with the acequia communities, that's a great example of how that's worked in that way. And then we've also had a few conservation efforts, outstanding national resource waters petitions that were successful where acequia communities were involved as well. So yeah, those are great partners for sure.
Let's see, sort of a related question. Curious, are there like different, and there's a question from Jason related to the Pueblo and tribal communities and how they've been involved. I'm wondering if there's any particular successes in there, or how those conversations are going. Yeah,
I think that's there's many sides to that question. I see the one in the chat specifically about the Rio Grande Trail, and I know that Katrina is on here, our contractor around the Rio Grande Trail, who can probably better speak to that, and I'm happy to connect you with her. But there's definitely been a lot of listening sessions, tribal only listening sessions specifically for the Rio Grande Trail, engaging those communities. And I mean, also I think just letting them know that we know the Rio Grande Trail goes through sovereign land, and if in theory it should or would if it's stuck along the river, and we're definitely respectful of that, and there's no expectation from communities obviously to engage or allow that, and there's diversions around sovereign land absolutely with that, and engaging those communities in land acknowledgement. Trail signage is one of the most recent efforts with the Rio Grande Trail, the tribal communities, and working to identify, historical and cultural significance areas around the trail and throughout the trail. And then in general, we have funded a ton of our tribes and pueblos through our Outdoor Equity Fund, as well as our Trails Plus grant. Most recently provided a $500,000 award to Taos Pueblo for a trail, some trails to do some of the windfall damage control on some of their Pueblo trails, and then to work on feasibility study for another trail that would run kind of up the mountain. So definitely a lot of engagement there, and I think that's one thing that Again, like this year in particular with OEF, there's no longer, there's no match requirement for tribal communities. So we eliminated that in order to increase that accessibility and equity. And then for our Trails Plus grant, one of the things is that, the effort has to be open to the public, but for our tribes and pueblos, if it's open to the tribe or the pueblo, we consider that the public. So we can fund projects solely on tribal land that don't have to be open to the general public as well.
Great. Let's see, we're almost at the end of our time with Alyssa. So one of the questions is, economic development, we always have to, well, we don't always have to, but it really helps if we can show what kind of impact we're having. And this is related to my sort of final question here. So one was asking, is there an expanded number of trails or a number of companies that have started that are, I'm curious kind of what metrics you're using in order to just say, what kind of progress is being made, what kind of impact?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I appreciate you recognizing we're still a young division and we're definitely still working on, which numbers are best to capture. But I can say that we definitely, I think, highly rely on the BEA data that comes out every year, specifically around outdoor rec. And comparing it, year after year, we did create, when our division was just created, we received a grant from REI to kind of create like a baseline report, economics report, which I'm happy, I can shoot a link to in the chat when I'm done. And we're hopeful that with that, in the next, after 5 years, say, or 10 years, we'll be able to recreate that and compare those numbers. But just as well, I can shoot a link to the BEA data, but, it came out last year came out in 2022 based on 2021. An outdoor rec economy provides about 2.3 billion in GDP to the state. It's employing right around 30,000 people. And we are
just real quick ones. Somebody didn't catch the name of the agency that you were mentioning. Oh, James has got us covered there. Thanks.
Yeah, and so just in this last year, we've got New Mexico was ranked 5th in the nation for outdoor recreation job growth. Each of the categories that the BEA tracks, New Mexico is ahead of the game, ahead of the pace nationally, which is encouraging. I think a lot of that's bounced back from COVID. And then we also, through like our Trails Plus grant, what we awarded in 2022, those infrastructure projects will in total create over 500 jobs. So we definitely have a few. I'm happy if you have shoot me an email if you have specific questions. I can definitely happy to pull out in a specific data that we may have for sure.
Awesome. I have 2 last questions. One is, and I may have missed part of this, but there was a question about how are organizations sort of invited to what he's calling like a decision-making or troubleshooting table. And I'm not sure if that's specific to a particular project or just a general.
Yeah, so I mean, one, we're super accessible. So if you ever have thoughts, concerns, questions, you definitely are more than welcome to shoot those to us, reach out to us. And then I would say also that I think the biggest thing is we are a small division, but we do have an advisory committee made up of various organizations. Jim with Endeavor sits on that. The tourism, the other state agencies, tourism, state parks, land management agencies. So there are a variety of individuals that are at that, I would say, decision-making table. So I would say that, if there's like someone that represents your particular interests or whatever, you're also welcome to reach out to them. Our advisory committee is listed on our website. And then of course, there's always from our end sharing of public comment for a variety of projects. There's a variety of U.S. Forest Service, BLM. If you're interested on that front, we're always sharing opportunities for public comment on specific projects as well. And then I can answer, I see a quick, I'll take 2 seconds, the state of the accelerator. It should be launching again next year. We're
Awesome.
gonna put RFP out early 2024 for that to be run then in 2 cohorts, likely fall of 2024 and fall of 2025. So
And we're
it's
gonna
back up and in existence again, hopefully sooner rather than later.
We're going to touch on a couple, sort of related things about the Outdoor Economics Conference and other fun activities. So one of the sort of typical questions and I'll try and combine two of my last typical questions here and that is, what's one thing, if there's a call to action, what's one thing that either the business community or the folks assembled here, what can we do to get businesses and, in a way, like the larger public, more involved in what you're doing so that we can reap greater benefits for New Mexico and for the city of Santa Fe, of course?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the biggest things, honestly, it sounds kind of cheesy, but I would say if you aren't getting it, to go sign up for our newsletter. I would say it's the best place to keep up with all the latest news and outdoor rec happenings in the state across the board. It's the best way to keep up with us, our grant timelines, partner grants. We have career section, trail highlights, upcoming events, volunteer opportunities. So I would say there, it's also a way for you, if you have anything going on in your respective organizations or communities, to shoot them to us. We're more than happy to help get the word out through our newsletter, through social media. And again, I think the biggest thing is that, I know a lot of times state entities aren't always accessible, but we really are. We're a small division, really easy to get a hold of one of the three of us. We're happy to chat. If you have ideas, whether if it's a business that you're looking to expand or grow, if you just have ideas about how to, what you want outdoor rec to look like and be in your community, how you want to grow the economy on that front, whatever it is, we're happy to engage and genuinely mean it when we say that we're acceptable and we're here as a resource.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to say I really thank you. Well, thanks all to all the participants also, but really thanks so much for joining us here today and sharing, share some insights, but also, some of the different programs that you've got to offer. I'll throw up a slide or two. So big thanks. If folks, if you can reach down to the bottom of your screen and throw a reaction up there, that would be great. If you could stick around it looks like there's still some questions that are going to be floating in the chat. But we're going to have to move on. So let's see, we should be seeing a slide. And we're going to show you another slide. So one of the things I saw that Casey joined us a little bit ago, or several minutes ago, my colleague here, one of my colleagues here at the Office of Economic Development, I just wanted to run through a few of the different activities that we're involved with our office here at the City of Santa Fe. So first of all, and I culled all of this from our amazing newsletter that comes out twice a month, usually the first Monday of the month and about mid-month, that third Monday. But basically recognizing June as Pride Month, there's a number of different activities that we're involved with, but also, of course, that are taking place throughout our community. There's a pre-acceleration program that's related to the Center for Responsible Entrepreneurship. It's being sort of run by a group called Santa Fe, or Innovate Santa Fe. It's one of our sort of favorite groups of people. And it's really about how to get your startup or your venture idea or existing business, how to turn that into something that's creating real impact in our community. And they've got 2 workshops coming up, 2 half-day workshops, this coming Saturday and the following Saturday. Next Generation Water Summit. Boy, I updated it so that the S would be capitalized, and I really feel bad about it now. I didn't include that version. But June 15th and 16th, so that's coming up real soon. But I know, most of us here are really concerned about the environment and water, of course. So some good friends putting that together, and City of Santa Fe is hosting it here at the convention center. Juneteenth special event coming up. Juneteenth, of course, is a holiday, June 19th, but on June 20th, from 1 to 3 p.m. at the Southside Branch Library, there's a real special event that's taking place to recognize and sort of connecting the business community as well, but to recognize the history and importance of Juneteenth. A couple final things to mention right now. Art Walk Santa Fe is at the Mercado South Side on June 24th. Great organization, but also really helping bring the community together for a variety of arts and other kinds of business content. And finally, this is a little bit fun, or it's a lot of fun. I'll throw the link in the chat in a minute or so. But we were involved, we at the Office of Economic Development were involved in putting together a telenovela series. So I've only seen the preview. It's available on Facebook, so we'll get the link up to that real soon. But it's really fun, and it's going to be launching shortly, and I hope people enjoy it. Let's see, Casey, I was wondering, is there anything that you want to add, related to either events or sort of catching up here before we introduce our next guest?
Eric, hey, thank you so much. And thank you for taking the lead on this. You're hitting it out of the park, sir. Things to remember, it is Pride Month on the 24th, which is the Saturday. It is the Pride Parade. City of Santa Fe is the title sponsor for Santa Fe Pride, which is turning 30 years this year. So very exciting. We'll all be out there. I think that's kind of the biggie. We have I would say just keep looking at our Facebook and our different channels. We will be promoting things as we go along. There's been a bunch of stuff, like every other day we seem to be having a pop-up event happening, Pride related. We're also going to be doing a flag raising and an ordinance, not an ordinance, a proclamation coming up. I believe it's next week. It may be next Monday. But if not, I will just keep touching base with us, and we will keep adding things as we move along. That's
great. I will. Perfect. Let's see. We're going to invite up our next two folks. We'll see how many spotlights we throw here. I think it's only two. But let's see. So I'm going to invite up, let's see, a colleague here at spot. Oh, wow. We have three people. That's amazing. So let's see. And I think we're going to kick it off a little bit with Jason, who's a colleague here at the Office of Economic Development. He and I came on about the same day, and the magic, close to 6 months ago of joining a small, agile, and mighty team here at the Office of Economic Development, and also James Glover, and we'll get to a little bit more of a deeper introduction with him, but they've both been really, I think, instrumental in leveling up what's happening in outdoor recreation here. So I've got a few notes that I want to bring up. So first of all, with Jason, I'm wondering if you can share just briefly, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? And maybe, what's your role, not everything, because we're all wearing a lot of hats, but what your role is here with the Office of Economic Development.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Eric. Hi, everyone. I'm Jason Greenidge with the City of Santa Fe's Office of Economic Development. So I won't discuss all my hats, but as an economic development specialist with OED, my role varies and can often change with current identified needs and assignments. Currently, my focus is on work-based learning initiatives, workforce resource recruiting and eligibility, the broadband initiative, and of course, outdoor recreation. Just a little bit of background, not too much. I worked for the state for about 8 years, like Alyssa, with an emphasis on healthcare, helping the people of New Mexico via contract management with Medical Assistance Division, and prior to coming on board with the city, the state's Department of Health. I wanted to focus a bit more locally, I guess, if that makes sense, rather than regionally or statewide, and I thought I could apply those same beliefs and principles working in economic development for the city.
I put up the a brief slide. Jason's got a neat presentation, which we won't go into all of, but the great some great content related to something we'll talk about here in a little bit, or a little bit further. So let's see. And I'm curious, like you mentioned part of this, but I mean, so you mentioned what brought you to this role a little bit. Can you expand a little bit on why you think this role, and in particular, maybe this work that you're doing related to outdoor recreation, why and how has that become important for you and really for, you know, the work that you're doing in the wider community?
Yeah, sure. So, gosh, where do I start? I guess I can start with a bird's eye view. New Mexico residents enjoy recreation on more than 35 million acres of public lands, and the outdoor rec economy directly supports over 1 billion in income and over 30,000 jobs. I mean, I think those numbers themselves sort of demonstrate the importance and why New Mexico as a state, our cities, our towns really need to support this endeavor. The city of Santa Fe is really wanting to increase these numbers, at least locally, if not regionally, by supporting outdoor rec businesses in whatever stage they're in, be it growth or sustainability. The city of Santa Fe is also aiming to support outdoor rec entrepreneurs and land conservation initiatives. I think one of the most important factors in supporting outdoor rec entrepreneurs is that we have so much land and so much outdoor rec opportunity here, that if we could really bring businesses, again, whether they're in their infantile stages or off and running, to New Mexico, I think that would be to the benefit of all.
Thanks for adding that. And now, so we, I don't know, trying to mix it up a little bit. So I'll say that I've known Jim through maybe a couple different hats, at least for myself, and maybe several for him. And I like the T-shirt you're wearing. Can you tell us a little bit about, you know, yourself and your organization as well, there, Jim?
Yeah, hello everybody, and yeah, I'm wearing my Bike Santa Fe T-shirt that is produced by a business, an outdoor recreation business over by the plaza, which is Santa Fe Trails Outfitters, and he's a member of Endeavor and is doing extremely well. You know, just showing that outdoor recreation businesses in whatever capacity can really be successful in the state of New Mexico. But Endeavor New Mexico is our DBA, but we are really the New Mexico Outdoor Recreation Business Alliance. And we formed during a wonderful time called the pandemic. And so it's been interesting to try to get this off. It was in the strategic plan, wait 100 years until next pandemic to start this. And that's what we did. Probably not a wise element of the plan, but we've had over 220 members statewide join us. Several on the call today are members of Endeavor, including a board member, Edna Trager from Elephant Butte is a board member. And we are just all about trying to support efforts to expand the outdoor recreation economy in New Mexico. That's really our focus. So you think of us as a chamber of commerce for outdoor recreation businesses, whatever capacity. We have everything from Ted Turner's Ranch for Mayo Ranch as a member, down to mom and pops who are just trying to survive running maybe a fishing guiding company on a river somewhere in New Mexico. So it's exciting to see. And I cite this statistic because what's really cool to me, and we had Alyssa on from the Outdoor Recreation Division, maybe she's still here, but you know, a few years ago, about 20 years ago, we made a similar effort to grow the film industry in New Mexico. And at that time, our film, and I've seen some data, in 2004, New Mexico did about $40 million in film production. This last year, the statistics I saw coming out of the New Mexico Film Office, we did annually about $855 million. So that is a percentage growth of over 2,000% per a year. And so I'm seeing that same sort of thing in the state of New Mexico. We're at that tipping point, the fact that you have so many people here, that there's the state office, there is our organization, cities like Santa Fe now making outdoor recreation a priority, and lots of national organizations looking into New Mexico to really assist us and really paying a close attention to such things like the Outdoor Equity Fund, which is #1 on a good list. Oftentimes we're #1 on a bad list. So it's really exciting to see that we are moving in the right direction.
Yeah, that's great. And I think sort of maybe a little bit more about your journey for a sec is because one of the things that I've known about you is I kind of know you as in a way like as a marketing guy. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. But the other thing that I've always known is like, you know, you're running marathons, probably you're doing like ultra bike whatevers. So I've also known you as an outdoor guy. So I love that to me that these kinds of things are coming together in serving those businesses and building community.
Yeah, and I sort of consider myself a bright guy, but back in college in 1976, I worked for 3 consecutive summers at Crater Lake National Park. And what a great place to work, amazing place. And it never once dawned on me at that time that I could have a career in outdoor recreation. So it took me 45 years later to finally get wise up and get smart enough to know that I could be sort of hanging out in my chosen area of outdoor recreation. So part of the whole reason for starting Endeavor and working with communities is because I don't think our youth today really understand that they too could have a career in outdoor recreation. So I think we have to be very proactive in our efforts at whatever level to really get kids outdoors, which is why the Outdoor Equity Fund is so great, because it's getting kids underserved kids outdoors. I think Alyssa said 40,000 kids are exposed outdoors. So then how do we take that and get them on a path to an eventual career in outdoor recreation, whether they want to own their own company, whether they want to be a national park manager, or whether they want to protect the wilderness. So we just really need to be really active in a concerted effort to make that happen. And I just saw something that I think in Bentonville or someplace out in Arkansas where they're really big into mountain biking, they gave every kid in a first grade class a bike and taught them how to ride it and got them out on the trails. And that's a long game. It's going to take a long time for those kids to eventually be, in the outdoor recreation businesses. But Arkansas is realizing you got to start early to get them thinking about it way down
Awesome.
the way.
So one of the things that's fantastic, and I love that. I'm not sure the budget on that. But I love that idea. I should put my little heart icon up. One of the things we wanted to mention that's coming up relatively soon, and 4 or 5 months, they just fly by. So is this outdoor economics, New Mexico Outdoor Economics Conference that Jason from our office has been the point person on. So Jason, I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about what that, what's the overall event, what's the intent of it, but also, how are we getting involved with that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Eric. So the 2023 Outdoor New Mexico Economics Conference will be held this fall from October 23rd through the 25th. But more importantly, Santa Fe will be the host city for the first time. We're, of course, very excited to practice transparency and working with our partners, Santa Fe County. Big shout out to Juan and his group who have worked diligently to help facilitate this and bring this about. But I can just give you a bit of a timeline of it, and then I think I can probably copy and paste some links into the chat if that will work.
Sure.
On ways that businesses, government entities, everyone can sort of participate and help. But currently the City of Santa Fe's Office of Economic Development is working with our comms and media teams for Santa Fe, City of Santa Fe area content and advertising that will amplify as we approach the conference date itself. We do hope to continue working with Jim Glover's Endeavor, an adventure pitch with TJ Cook, the fund manager for Ingenuity Venture Fund. One of the main pushes is, at least for the city, is we want to secure businesses to sign up as vendors. And we want to increase the attendance from the previous counts from the past 5 conferences of about 300 folks or so to 500 or more, thus promoting as much exposure and bringing as many visitors to the Santa Fe area as possible.
Great. Let's see. Oh, we've got folks who are stepping out. I threw a couple of different the main links in the chat for both Endeavor and also for the Outdoor Economic Conference. And of course, if there's any additional links, that'd be good. How do folks This is the business related question that I'm asking, and we're almost at time. I love it. It's just flown by. So a business wants to get involved. Actually, this will be to both of you, and whoever wants to take it first. If a business is curious about how to get involved, maybe they're not in outdoor recreation proper, but they're adjacent, or they see that there's some kind of angle, or they're an enthusiast themselves and they want to see how their business can fit in. What's a good way for them to get involved either with Endeavor and or this outdoor economics conference?
Jim, do you want to go ahead and respond
Yeah,
to that, and I'll
I'll sta-
piggyback off you?
That sounds good. I'll start. And yes, we are a member-based organization, so reaching out to us is a great way to start, because what we have is, I believe, is a phenomenal network. So typically our members come to us and say, oh, I need to find this person, or I need this thing, and we're able to really push them in the right direction, whether it be a very localized or at the state level or even the national level related to what their questions might be. And then you just get in the family. And so it's really nice to be able to, for instance, I use this example, why doesn't a bike shop in Farmington talk to a bike shop in Alamogordo to say, hey, how did you sell all those bikes now that we got a glut? They're not in competition, why not work together? And then something like in the city of Santa Fe, which is exciting, because now if a person is interested in possibly bringing a business to or starting a business, dropping into a person like Jason or Joanna and saying, hey, I'm interested, and the city now focusing on this idea that they want to grow the outdoor recreation business economy, they can point them in the right direction too, or hooking up with Juan out at the county. So it's just exciting times that people are making it a priority, and really the connections are there. This event you're hosting today, Eric, is really solidifies that. So I'm going to toss it back to Jason, but these are exciting times to be starting a business in outdoor recreation or to grow your business. We've reached that tipping point for sure.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna, agree wholeheartedly and 100% with everything that Jim said. But there's three, keys here. One is you have to be passionate about it. I think that passion is evidenced in Jim, all the folks that are in attendance here, and it really makes it conducive to the work that we're trying to get done. The second key for me is communication. And then, third, of course, is networking. I can't even begin to explain how excited the city is to be working with Santa Fe County and other regional partners as far as this endeavor goes, simply because I think something, hasn't really been practiced or worked with on such a scale heretofore. So, networking, having that passion. I think Jim was saying he worked, was at a summer camp, many moons ago, and now here we are, full circle, seeing, that passion and that appreciation become manifest in the outdoor recreation industry. So,
and I would just like to quickly add, Eric, that the Outdoor Economics Conference, there is no better place to network with people related to the outdoor recreation industry, especially if we can get that at Jason's goal up to 500 people. That's 500 people very targeted with an interest in the outdoor recreation economy in one way or another. And so I've attended all of them. This will be the 6th. And so I highly recommend anybody on this call to think about attending, exhibiting. It's just a great place to network. That's the key word, Jason. Good word. The N word there, networking.
Well, and we're just about to wrap up. Any quick questions or comments to put in the chat? Because I like to start and end on time if I possibly can. So if there are any last comments, we'd love to hear them. And you've already both done such a great job. Alyssa did a great job earlier. If you all have any final maybe statements to say, it looks like we do have a question. Will the Outdoor Economics Conference have a component related to education? Yeah. Would teachers, formal, informal, be a good audience to attend? We have many teachers interested. That's fascinating.
Yes, yeah. One of the focuses for the 2023 Outdoor New Mexico Economics Conference is going to be a focus on work-based learning via forestry, land conservation, outdoor rec, entrepreneurialism, and things of that nature. So yeah, that's a great question. We definitely want to do a bit more building as far as that particular dynamic for the Outdoor Rec Conference.
Great. I'm sorry. I'm getting some spam calls, some international spam calls that I'm really excited to get the messages on later. I'm very excited about that. I'm putting a couple things in the chat. Well, first of all, Jim, if you have any wrap up, and then I'm going to put the telenovela thing in the chat. But actually, the one thing that I'll mention right now, I'm gonna do a little bit of, I don't know, I'm getting out of order. So, Jim, any final comments? I think you already did a great job. So I'm curious if there's anything else you want to add. Any last button to put on things?
If people have questions, or I think the timing could not be better just to reach out to, whether it be the state office or our office or Jason or you, Eric. I mean, now everybody's sort of connected. We're like aspen groves, and we got all of our roots touching each other, and we're really working together to float all the boats, or in case of New Mexico, the kayaks. And so I think just stop anywhere, drop in with your question, and I think now you're going to be pointed in the right direction to help you move on to whatever it is you're trying to accomplish.
Oh, love it. Well, with that, I'm just so excited to have had the opportunity to kind of hear from you all, to hear from Alyssa, and to have some great questions that were shared with us. I'm going to throw a little slide up here. Just let's see, just so folks can see our content. I've already put it in the chat, but I know that there may be some folks who are joining us on Facebook. So let me put this up for a sec. Let's see. So so outdoor opportunities. Thanks to everyone for attending and participating in our first of hopefully many of these monthly video interview series where we talk with not just the movers and shakers, but real people who are behind the programs that make a difference for our businesses, for our entrepreneurs, and for our communities. So I'm really thankful to everyone for participating. Good ways to get in touch. I'll throw my email in, and we'll have a follow-up email for those of you who registered. But I really encourage you to get to sign up for our newsletter. That provides, just like Alyssa was saying before about the Outdoor Recreation Division's newsletter, that's really the primary way that we have of getting a lot of information out about the different events and activities. There's also information that we post regularly on Facebook, but that's a good way to get in touch. Let's see, next month, we've got a couple more details to finalize. July 4th happens to be a holiday in United States. So that Tuesday is not going to work for us. So we're looking at going to the Monday the 3rd, and we're talking with the Loan Fund about how businesses can get access to the funding they need in order to grow. A different thing that we wanted to add is something that our director, who's somewhere in the room, has mentioned, is we've got this series of coffee and collaboration gatherings where typically we bring together the folks who are running chambers and trade associations, but also in economic development, really the front line of people who are serving entrepreneurs, but also some of the entrepreneurs and sort of adjacent programs as well. So that's happening on June 26th. And if you'd like more information about that, please maybe put your information in the chat, or you can email us, and I will add, let's see, I'm going to get rid of the stop share. And I'm going to add my information in the chat as well. Let's see. And I think with that, we're at 12:59. We have an opportunity to end early, and I'm just really excited. Thanks again to everyone who joined us, and we hope to see you again next month. Thanks.